Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I'm Nuha, and this time around, my team and I will present about tenses in English. And this time, we'll look through the lens of overfishing and mass fishing, a shared downfall between marine ecosystems and society. Now, when we talk about tenses, what are tenses and what role do they play when we speak English? Tenses are any of the forms of a verb which show the time at which an action happened. Let's take an example. She writes emails every morning. They were playing football yesterday. Both of the sentences indicates the time which an action happened. And tenses, there are three. It's divided into three: present tense, past tense, and future tense. And then in these types of tenses, there's more subdivisions into it and specific examples that I will show later.
Hi guys and Assalamualaikum. My name is Sadatu Faharisha and today I will be presenting present tense. So let's start with present simple. Present simple tense is usually used to describe habits or routines, the things done regularly. Next is general truths of facts, the things that are always true. Next, we usually use it to talk about permanent situations, the things that don't change often. And the last one is schedule, future events, especially timetables or programs. So for the example, for common time expressions is everyday, week, month, always, use, often, sometimes, never, and so on. So let's move on to the example that I have found in an article. For example, is Shar and Race play many key roles in the ocean. So the main key or the key word is play. Why play? Because it is a plural. Next is WWF works to conserve sharks and rays in over 25 countries and territories across the globe. So the keyword is works. Next is they typically foreshadow of implementing measures to directly control the amount of fishing, such as through catch limit.
Alright, so let's get into the second subdivision of a present tense, which is a present continuous tense. Now, when we talk about present continuous tense, it is a verb that expresses an action that is happening in the present right now and may continue into the future. It might happen later on. The way we form a present continuous is by using the formula of putting the subject first, and then we're going to add the to be verb, which might be am, is, or are. And then we are going to add the present participle of the main verb with an ing. For example, the present participle of the main verb cook is cooking. And it's used to express what's happening now and might continue into the future. Let's take for an example here. He's regretting his decision for an early retirement. The word he refers to a subject, and the word is refers to be verb, which is. Regretting is the form of present participle of the main verb regret. So present participle of the main verb regret is regretting. Therefore, it is considered a present continuous tense. Now here's a table that shows each subject and the to be verb that belongs to that subject. For instance, the subject I, right, refers to am. Let's say, I am eating. So I am is a to be verb for I. Now the to be verb for the subject you, we, they, or refer to a group, right? To another group, plural, let's say a herd of elephants, then the to be verb will be are. Let's say you are, we are, they are, a herd of elephants are. Okay? Now let the Now the to be verb for the subject of a third person like Adam, he, she, Aisha, then the to be verb will be is. Now let's get into the example taken from an article about mass fishing and illegal fishing and overfishing. Okay, so the first article comes from WWF, World Wildlife. Okay, so I'm just going to read and then we're going to highlight which part is the present continuous tense. Many people who make a living catching, selling, and buying fish are working to improve how the world manages and conserves ocean resources. So from here we can see the are is a to be verb, and then the working is the form of a present participle of the main verb work, right? The main verb work is presented as working as a present participle. Oh my gosh, okay, I'm gonna...
Hello everyone, so my name is Nurkara Atira Binti Ashudin from Group 5. So the first tense that I will be explaining to you guys for today is present perfect. So what is present perfect tense and what is the definition? So the definition for present perfect tense is describes past action connected to the present, either through a continuing action from the past or an action that has a current result. So what are the formulas for present perfect tense? So the first formula we have for present perfect tense is subject plus have or has plus past participle. And the second formula we have is subject plus have not or has not plus past participle. And lastly, we have or has plus subject plus past participle. So how can we use this present perfect tense in a sentence? So I will give you guys two examples. So the first one we have, she has visited Los Angeles twice. And the second one, they have never seen that movie before. So the word she has visited Los Angeles is the present perfect tense. And the word they have never seen that movie is the present perfect tense. Moving to the example that I could find from articles that about mass fishing that contains present perfect tense. The first article we have is mackerel caught by Norway Iceland, the Faroe Island and the UK continues to be overfished. Total catch limits set by all parties have consistently exceeded. So the word have consistently exceeded is the present perfect tense. The second example from the other article is now Northeast Atlantic mackerel caught by midwater trawl nets has been moved. So the word has been moved is the present perfect tense. Now let's move to the second tense, which is present perfect continuous. So what are the definition of present perfect continuous? So the definition for present perfect continuous is describes an action that started in the past and is still continuing, or an action that just finished but has a present result. So how do we use this present perfect continuous? The formulas for present perfect continuous are, the first one we have subject plus have or has plus been and plus verb ing. The second one we have is subject plus have or has plus not been and plus verb ing. And lastly we have or has plus subject plus been and plus verb ing. So the examples that I could give you guys is, first, I have been studying for an hour. The second one, it has been raining all day. In this sentence, you guys recognize I have been studying, which have the subject, have, been, and verb ing. And same goes to the second one. So, example that I could find from article that's about mass fishing are, the first one, Paul Pellegrini's family has been fishing Northern California waters for 3 generations. So the words has been fishing is the present perfect continuous tense. The second example that I could find from the other article that's about mass fishing is, men like Raul Gomez have been catching tuna for 40 years. And the words have been catching is the present perfect continuous tense.
Okay guys, so let's move on to the past tense. I will begin with the past simple tense. Past simple tense is usually used to describe actions or events that happened and were completed in the past. Next is situations or habits that existed in the past but no longer occur, and last is a sequence of actions in the past. It focuses on when something happened, often with specific time or time expression. For examples for common time expressions is yesterday, last night, last week, last year, in a specific year like 2000, ago, when, and so on. Next, we move to the examples that are found in articles. Is experts found that the number of threatened species had doubled since the first global study in 2014, and the main word of the keyword is found. Next is the mid-20th century. Countries around the world work to build their fishing capacities to ensure the availability and affordable of protein-rich food. So the main word of the keyword is work.
Hi, my name is Nur Shamimi Hazwani, and I will present about past continuous tense. The past continuous tense is a verb tense that shows an ongoing action that began and ended in the past. The past continuous tense formula is subject plus was or were plus verb plus ing plus object. There are three examples that I made. First and foremost, she was studying when the accident happened. Second, we weren't cooking yesterday. Last but not least, was she studying with her friends last night? Let's move on to the examples from article that I found on the internet. The first one is, he was smoking a cigarette and conduct his assigned task, which was to carry harvested fry over a narrow sand spit to a plastic line capture pond in situ lagoon with confidence. The sentence for he was smoking used the past continuous tense formula, which is subject plus was plus verb plus ing. The second example is, during site visits along the East Coast, respondents also comment that the general size of nearshore species was reducing and that flash fish landings appears to be on the increase. The sentence for species was reducing used the past continuous tense formula, which is subject plus was plus verb plus ing.
Okay guys, so let's continue with the past perfect tense. Past perfect tense is used to describe an action that was completed before another action or time in the past. It helps to show which of two part events happened first. So the key idea of past perfect tense is two actions happened in the past. Next one is the one that happened earlier, use past perfect. And the last one is the one that happened later, use past simple. So let's move to the example. But by 1989, when about 90 million tons of fish were taken for the ocean, the industry had hit its high point and yields have declined and stagnated ever since. So the main word or the key word is had hit.
So let's dive into past perfect continuous. Past perfect continuous tense emphasizes a prolonged action, event, condition, or situation that was ongoing before another action, event, condition, or situation in the past. This means in the sentence, or in a past perfect continuous tense, there were two actions or situations that happened, but we emphasizes on only the first situation that happens before the second one. So let's look at the formula. The first would be the subject, and then we're going to put the word had been, and then later on we're going to put the present participle of the main verb plus ing, meaning it's the verb and then the ing with ing, and then we're going to put in the second action, event, or condition or situation. Let's see the examples. The first example would be An Ngo had been playing the piano for 35 years when she was finally asked to do a solo with a local orchestra. So you can see An Ngo being the subject, and then the had been is the word had been, and then the playing being is the present participle of the verb of the root form verb play. So it's playing the piano for 35 years when she was finally asked to do a solo. The second situation comes right there with the local orchestra. So you can see there's two situations happening, but we emphasize on the first one before the second one. Let's look at another example. I had been working at the restaurant for 6 weeks by the time I met the owner. The I is the subject, the had been being the word had been, and then there's working, the verb plus ing, at the restaurant for 6 weeks by the time I met the owner. Now that's when the second situation comes in. So the first situation is being emphasized, which she was working at the restaurant, and then the second situation then we're talking about the second situation, which is she met the owner. All right, so let's look at the article about illegal fishing. Okay, so further, a 2018 campaign to inspect foreign vessel fishing in Tanzanian waters for IUU fishing, also known as illegal, unrecorded, undocumented fishing, also uncovered labor abuses on Chinese flagged vessels. An inspection of the Chinese flagged fishing vessels, Tai Hong No. 1, which found it had been shark finning in violation of Tanzanian law, also discovered that Tanzanian fishers had been refused water and food, and that 12 men shared a small unventilated cabin. So what happens in this Chinese fishing vessel? So first, it had been shark finning. So the word it is the subject referring to the fishing vessel, and then the had been being the word had been in there, and then the shark finning is the present participle of the root form of verb shark fin, of the activity of shark fin. Okay, and then only the second situation comes in, that they also discovered that these Tanzanian fishers aren't treated right, which is, as you can see, the most bottom sentence. Alright, so now let's get into the second article about illegal fishing. So let's look at the last sentence, the second last sentence, pardon me. Small boat fishermen, subject had been, the word had been is included. Expressing is the present participle of the root verb express their concerns about the catches of the industrial fleet for years, and they were some of the first to notice that stocks seemed to be in trouble. So you can see that's where past perfect continuous happens. Alright, so let's get into the first subdivision of a future tense, which is simple future. Now, simple future tense refers to actions that will occur in the future, meaning it hasn't happened yet, it's going to happen. It communicates willingness and expresses an expectation, a prediction, or a guess, meaning it's not happening yet, we're just thinking it might happen. Now, let's look at the formula. There's two forms that you can see. The first is will, and then the second is without the will, but it has the going to word, which is mostly used for informal situations. Okay, so the first the first formula, will be subject, and then the word will, and then there's going to be the root form of main verb. Let's say, I will eat. Eat is the root form of main verb. Or I will sleep. I will teach. I will show. That is the root form of main verb. Then the second formula, but it's used for informal situations, when you're talking to someone informally, or when you're talking to someone casually, like your best friend. So you're going to put, instead of will, there's going to be going to, but in this instance there's going to be a to be verb before the going to. So subject, and then the to be verb, and then going to, and the last one would be the root form of the main verb. So the first formula, we're going to look at the first example. Safia will, the word will, not quit, the root form of a main verb, before she reaches her goal. So Safia will not quit before she reaches her goal. Then there's the second example for the second situation, for the second formula, you being the subject, are is a to be verb, and then the going to, see there, that's the word going to, and then see what I mean. See what I mean. See is the root form of the main verb. Okay, so let's look into the articles talking about illegal and unregulated fishing. Okay, Americans spend over $100 billion annually on seafood, yet experts predict that destructive fishing practices will decrease the global fish supply, exacerbating the depletion of this common food resource. So you can see this destructive fish practices will decrease the global fish supply. So the destructive fishing practices is a subject, and there's the letter will, and then the root form of main verb being decrease. Okay, that's a common example of simple future. So let's look into this second article, also about illegal and unregulated fishing. So IUU fishing will therefore continue to be an attractive option and can only be curbed with more stringent controls. So the word IUU fishing refers to a subject.
Future continuous tense. The future continuous tense is a verb tense that shows an ongoing action in the future. The future continuous tense formula is subject plus will plus be plus verb plus ing plus object. Example for future continuous tense is he will be dancing in the show tomorrow. Second, I will not be coming to the school tomorrow. Let's continue to the example from articles. The first example is proper management will consider research on the state of fish stocks and how to sustain their populations. We need to change a few words to form a sentence in the future continuous. The new sentence is proper management will be considering research on the state of fishing stocks and how to sustain their populations. Proper management will be considering research is the future continuous tense formula. The second example is it has been found to be the most serious threat to coral reefs, and it is predicted that 19% of global coral reefs will be dead by 2050 due to commercial fishing. The new sentence is it has been found to be the most serious threat to coral reefs, and it is predicted that 19% of global coral reefs will be dying by 2050 due to commercial fishing. It is predicted that 19% of global coral reef will be dying by 2050 due to commercial fishing is the future continuous tense formula. Future perfect tense. The future perfect tense is a verb tense describes an action that will be complete before some other point in future. The future perfect tense formula is subject plus will have plus past participle, which is verb plus ed. Examples for future perfect tense is I will have prepared for the exam. Second, I won't have arrived home by the time my mother calls. Let's continue to the examples from article. First example is benefiting economically from IUU fishing will not be tolerated anymore by any EU national. We need to change a few words to form a sentence in the future perfect tense. The new sentence is by then, benefiting economically from IUU fishing will not have been tolerated anymore by any EU national. Benefiting economically from IUU fishing will not have been tolerated is the future perfect tense formula. Second example is effective management of fishing will require a deeper understanding of the effects of exploitation that we now possess. The new sentence is effective management of fishing will have required a deeper understanding of the effects of exploitation than we now possess. Effective management of fishing will have required use the future perfect tense formula.
So finally, we get to the last tense, which is future perfect continuous. So what is future perfect continuous and what are the definitions? So the definition for future perfect continuous is describes an action that will have been happening for a period of time up to a certain point in the future. So what are the formulas for this tense? The first one we have subject plus will have been plus verb ing. And the second one we have subject plus won't have been plus verb ing. And the last one we have will plus subject plus have been plus verb ing. So what are the examples and how can we use the future perfect continuous tense in the sentence? The first sentence I could give you is, by next month, I will have been studying in UMS for 2 months. And the second one is, she will have been working at the hospital for 10 years by 2030. So the words I will have been studying in UMS is the future perfect continuous. And the words she will have been working is the future perfect continuous. So since future perfect continuous are rarely used in articles, so I'm sorry in advance because I couldn't find any article that contains future perfect continuous. But I could give you guys an example of article that's about mass fishing that I can turn the words into future perfect continuous tense. So the first example we have is commercial fishing is the activity of catching fish and other seafood for commercial profit. We can change it into commercial fishing will have been the activity of catching. So the words commercial fishing, will have been, and catching is the future perfect continuous tense. The second example that I took from the same article is, commercial fishing uses many different methods to effectively catch a large variety of species, including the use of pole and line. So we can put future perfect continuous into the words like, commercial fishing will have been using many different methods to effectively catch a large variety of species. So the words commercial fishing will have been using is the future perfect continuous tense.
That's all from us. We hope that through this presentation, not only will you be aware of how illegal fishing, overfishing, and mass fishing impacts our daily lives, but you can see how tenses in English are used every day and how it's being used in articles and documentaries and so on. Bye-bye.